The story begins as a boy named Asashi wakes up from a dream, and the artificial intelligence in his house called Lovren tells him to get up. He sees a fortune teller on TV who notes that something exciting will happen to people born on the 8th of October, which interests him since it's his birthday. She mentions a bunch of things for him to watch out for, but Lovren tells him he'll be late for school, so he rushes to get ready. As he runs out of his house, a girl named Izumi ends up crashing into him, and she wonders if he saw under her skirt, but he assures her that he didn't see anything. She apologizes for being careless and runs away since she's late, but he notices that she left something behind. Asashi gets on the train, where another girl named Meng sits right next to him, but he doesn't understand why she would sit there when the whole train is empty. She falls asleep on his shoulder, which makes him nervous, so he tries to get away, but he has a hard time since she's holding onto him. They both end up falling on the floor, and he can't believe where his hands landed, but she suddenly kicks as she wakes up, so he quickly gets away. He notices that all the strange encounters are happening at the places the fortune teller mentioned, but he thinks he's just imagining things, and he continues on his way. But a girl named Karen suddenly falls onto his face, and she thinks he's a pervert, but he tells her to get off since he's the victim, but she hits him before running away. After that, he hides from a cleaning robot, since it's one of the things the fortune teller mentioned, but it comes back with a girl's underwear. The owner, Amelia, thinks he hacked the robot to get it to do his dirty work, so he tells her it's a misunderstanding, but she doesn't believe him. The robot grabs her skirt, so she tells it to stop, but it thinks she's trash and takes her away. Asashi continues to make his way to school, but he comes across a dog, and he decides to follow it, but it leads him to a boy named Ilyu, who asks him for help since a dog jumped onto him. Asashi pretends he didn't see anything, but the dog suddenly chases him, pinning him to the ground, and Ilyu leaves him since he didn't help him before. He ends up falling unconscious, and as he wakes up, he realizes that he's late for school. He manages to sneak into class, but he can't believe that all the girls he ran into transferred into his class, and he looks away to hide his face. Their homeroom teacher turns out to be Meng, and she realizes that he's snuck in, so she tells him to look at her. Everyone wonders why he keeps looking at the window, and he tries making a face so that they won't recognize him, but Izumi remembers him, and they all end up slapping him. During their break, a boy named Yoshio asks Asashi what he did to the girls, and he becomes jealous after Asashi tells him everything. We see Izumi telling the girls they shouldn't be so hard on Asashi, but she notices something and she goes quiet. Meanwhile, Yoshio is checking out the new girls, and he tells Asashi about them, but he's surprised that Yoshio was able to get so much information on them in such a short time. He wonders if Asashi likes any of them, but he thinks it doesn't matter, since they all seem to hate him. After that, Asashi finds a letter in his locker, which tells him to come to the cherry tree, but he decides to ignore it. He rushes towards the cafeteria, but he almost crashes into Izumi, who's just glad they didn't run into each other like before. She asks him if he found anything after she left, and tells him not to give it back to her in front of everyone, but he accidentally takes out Amelia's bra, so she becomes angry and slaps him. He goes to the cafeteria, but everything's already sold out, and he notices that Karen didn't get anything to eat. So he gives her his banana, and she realizes that she was the one who smashed it, which makes her embarrassed. Asashi goes outside to buy a drink, but Ilyu asks for help, since the dogs are running after him again, so he tries to turn them away, but one of them attacks him from behind. He apologizes to Asashi for getting him involved in his mess, but Asashi tells him to forget everything that just happened. Asashi runs into Meng, who realizes that his elbow is hurt, so she takes him to the infirmary. Amelia joins them in the room, and after Meng leaves, she asks Asashi where the bandages are, so he wonders if she cut herself. She mentions that her chest is hurting, and he realizes it's because the robot took her underwear, so he takes it out of his pocket, which makes her embarrassed. She knows he wasn't the one who stole it, and admits that she was confused when she first ran into him, so she apologizes for how she acted. After school, Asashi goes to the cherry tree, where he sees Izumi waiting for him, so he takes out the underwear she left behind, thinking that it's a handkerchief, but she suddenly tells him she loves him, which completely shocks him. Asashi doesn't know what to tell her, and she asks him about his feelings, so he notes that he's never thought about love, which is why he needs to try it first to see how he feels. He mentions that everyone has different pleasures, and he knows that she doesn't like wearing underwear, which makes her embarrassed. She explains that she forgot to wear them since she was nervous, but she sees them flying away, so she becomes even more embarrassed and runs away. After that, Asashi thinks about what happened, but Ilyu suddenly barks in his ear, which gives him trauma. Asashi asks him if he needs anything, so he reveals that he's in love with him, and Asashi tries to make sense of the situation, but Meng suddenly takes him away. They head to an alley, where she suddenly grabs him and kisses his neck, since she's hiding from a group of men. He falls to his knees and asks her what's going on, so she explains that a person who's interested in her is trying to find her using their underlings. He doesn't mind helping her, but he thinks she should only be intimate with the person she loves, so she tells him that she's in love with him. He doesn't know what to do, so he just runs away, but Karen notices him, so she changes into a wedding dress and jumps at him. He ignores her and tries to get away, but she tells him she's on all the posters around him, since she's actually a model. He asks her if she's going on a shoot, but she explains that she's going to her wedding, so he congratulates her and wishes her the best. But she tells him to stop joking around, since they're the ones getting married, and she tells him she loves him. She takes him to a love motel, and he notes that they should say their vows first, so he tells her to close her eyes, but he uses the chance to get away. He comes across Amelia in disguise, and she tries to get his signature, but he realizes that she's trying to get him to sign a marriage certificate. He thinks all of them are pranking him, and she tries to stop him as he walks away, but the cleaning robot starts bothering her again. Asashi returns home, but he realizes that all of them are already waiting for him, so he thinks he must be at the wrong house. They show him a message from his father, telling him that all 5 of them are potential brides for him, and he knows that Asashi must be trying to point out that one of them is a boy. But he doesn't think Asashi should be limited by gender, and he notes that all of them will live with him, so that he can choose who he wants to marry after spending time with them. Izumi offers to make dinner for him, but Karen and Ilyu think she's trying to stand out, and they decide to help her. Amelia offers to give him a bath, and Ming thinks he needs a massage, but it makes the others jealous, so they start pestering him as well. He tells all of them to leave, since his father arranged everything without his consent, but they mention that they have no place to stay if he kicks them out. He tells them to go to the hotel where they used to stay, and notes that his house doesn't even have space for 5 extra people, but he's shocked to see that Lovren has already expanded it. He notes that he still can't live with girls, since there's no telling what might happen, but they don't seem to care, and Ming notes that she got permission from the school to let them live together. They convince him to let them stay, and they make dinner for him, but they all try to feed him at the same time, which gets him annoyed. After that, Izumi sits beside Asashi and thanks him for letting them stay with him, and Ilyu sits with him as well, but he becomes nervous and goes to take a bath. Karen tries to join him, but he kicks her out, and he notices Amelia spying on him, so he tells her to get out as well, but she mentions that she was there before him. As he goes to his room, he checks everywhere to make sure there's no one hiding. He thinks he might be overreacting, since they wouldn't go that far, but he's shocked to see Meng on his ceiling. He starts to lose it, and tells everyone to leave his house, but they remind him that they have nowhere else to go, so he decides to leave instead. He goes to a cherry tree, but Izumi manages to find him, and she explains that they were too excited to meet him, since all they knew was his name before coming there. They all thought he would change their lives, which is why they went overboard, and she apologizes for their actions. She asks him to come back home, and notes that they will leave him be, but he can't throw them out since they have nowhere else to go. As they go home, Asashi sees that the others are about to leave, and he tells them they can stay, but he warns them to stop bothering him. Asashi wakes up in the morning, and as he turns off the alarm, he notices Amelia trying to use his feet to sign the marriage certificate, so he loses it, since everyone's been invading his bedroom. He complains to Izumi about them, so she notes that it just shows how much they love him, but he notices that she has never broken into his room. At school, the teacher holds a kanji writing exercise, and she tells Karen to write the first word, so she writes it perfectly, which amazes everyone since she just came from abroad. Amelia volunteers to write the next word, but she messes up, and she gets embarrassed and acts like she was just joking. The teacher notes that they will have a kanji test next week, which makes everyone depressed, but Amelia doesn't seem to care. She tries to ask Asashi to have lunch with her, but she realizes that he's already gone, and we see him eating with Yoshio outside, since he can't relax in the classroom. Yoshio notes that the way Amelia always tries hard is cute, but Asashi doesn't agree with him, and notes that she just hates to lose. We see that when Amelia lost a rock-paper-scissors game to a girl on TV, it made her angry, and she spent the entire night coming up with a way to always win. She challenges everyone to a game, but no one wants to play, so she thinks they need a reward. She offers to let them have her pudding if they win, but she ends up losing to all of them, which makes her depressed. In the present, Yoshio is relieved since Asashi seems to be having more fun than he thought, and as he sees Asashi's lunchbox, he notes that making someone's favorite food is a sign of love. But he suddenly becomes sad, since he thinks nobody loves him, and Asashi wonders how Izumi found out his favorite foods. At night, Asashi goes to Amelia's room to check up on her, but he hears weird noises coming from her room, which makes him wonder what she's doing. He enters her room and asks her what's going on, but it turns out that she was just studying for the kanji test. She notes that she wants to use his language without any problems, so the next day, he takes her to a library to teach her. He gives her a test to gauge her level, but he can't believe how clueless she is, so he tells her she needs special training. After that, Ming brings Amelia's special pudding for her, but she's too busy studying in her room. The next day at the library, Asashi tells Amelia they should go home, but she wants to continue studying. He wonders why she's so fixated on it, since everyone has a few things they aren't good at, and he tells her she doesn't need to go overboard just to get good marks on a test. But she thinks results are everything, so working hard and failing is the same as not trying at all. She explains that she just wants to be able to use his language, which makes her emotional, and she suddenly runs off. At night, everyone wonders what's wrong with Amelia, since she didn't eat dinner and shut herself in her room, so Asashi goes to check up on her. She tells him to leave her alone, but she starts to cry, since she thinks she's a terrible person. She knows that everything he said was for her own good, but she got angry at him, and notes that even though she wants to thank him, she always ends up acting the opposite of what she feels. She thinks he must hate girls like her, but he tells her it's okay, and explains that being emotional means she's a sensitive person. He notes that even though she thinks working hard doesn't matter if she doesn't get results, he still appreciates her hard work, which makes her see a memory of when he was younger. He notes that he finds her interesting, which annoys her, so he explains that he meant it as a compliment. She tells him that in this situation, he should tell her he loves her even if he needs to lie, but he notes that he doesn't like to do that. After that, Amelia starts hanging kanji posters all over the house, and the others help her, since they know how important it is to her. After she takes the test, Asashi takes all the posters down, but he admits that it makes him sad. So Izumi tells him to hang up English posters if he wants to feel better, and Amelia notes that she's willing to give him lessons. He offers to help Izumi make breakfast, but Amelia tells him to rest while she helps Izumi, and he's glad that they're working together. At school, Amelia gets the result of her test, and she thinks she still has a long way to go, but she's happy that she worked hard, and she's glad that Asashi appreciates her effort. We see Asashi having lunch with Yoshio, who notes that Amelia seems different from before, so he wonders if something happened, but Asashi doesn't tell him anything. He sees a thank you note in his lunchbox from Amelia, and Yoshio is jealous that Asashi got an omelet with his name written on it, so he tries to take a bite. We see Ilyu sitting in the bathroom thinking about how even though she's actually a girl, her father forced her to live as a boy, but Asashi suddenly opens the door, which makes her embarrassed. After that, Izumi comes across a game with the first prize of a two-person vacation, and even though she doesn't think they'll win, she enters with her friends, but all of them end up winning the prize. They head to an inn to claim their prize, and they're surprised to see how old it looks, but Amelia is excited since it's just like the one in a novel she read. Ming thinks it must look modern on the inside, but an old woman welcomes them, and they're shocked to see how big she is. She asks them how she should arrange their rooms, and Asashi tells her to divide them into boys and girls, so he and Ilyu will stay together while the others sleep in a single room. The woman shows them to their rooms, and Ilyu tries to get out of staying with Asashi by telling him she snores in her sleep, but he tells her it's okay. He suddenly slaps her behind, which surprises her, but they're interrupted by Amelia and Karin, who invite them to play table tennis. After they have dinner, the woman gives them a tengu platter for dessert. Amelia has no idea what a tengu is, so they tell her it's a legendary creature that appears throughout the history of Japan, and all the masks hanging on the walls show what it looks like. The woman reveals that her ancestors saw a tengu, who told them to protect its sacred ground, but people don't believe that story, which is why the inn hasn't been doing well. They decide to enjoy the hot springs, but Ilyu is worried that her real identity is about to be found out, and Asashi slaps her once again. So she tells him to stop doing it, but she's surprised to see him naked, and she tells him to cover himself up, but he notes that it's fine since they're both guys. Ilyu decides to use one of the tengu masks to trick Asashi into thinking she's a boy, but he's shocked to see how big she is, and he wonders why she's covering her body, so she notes that it's because she's hairy. He offers to scrub her back, but as he does it, he realizes that she isn't hairy at all, and she's worried that he might find out she's a girl. So she starts acting more like a boy, and goes into the sauna with him. She immediately wants to leave since it's too hot, but she thinks it would make him realize she's a girl. She ends up sweating so hard that she gets surrounded by steam, and Asashi is shocked to see what's happening, telling her she's a real man. He goes outside since he can't take the heat anymore, while Ilyu is glad that she was able to get away, but a gust of wind sends her towel flying. She tries to get it back, but she notices Asashi coming back, while Karin and Amelia are trying to see what's happening on their side. So she puts on the tengu mask, telling them to protect her sacred ground, and they can't believe what they're seeing. Asashi goes to get Ilyu, who acts like she doesn't know what's happening, but she accidentally slips on a bar of soap and knocks herself out. As she wakes up, Asashi apologizes since he didn't notice she was a girl, but she's worried that he might be angry since she lied. He asks her how she prefers to live her life, and she starts to cry, telling him she wants to be a girl, but her father wanted her to live like a boy. So he tells her to live however she likes, since her father would understand it, and she suddenly sees a memory of him when he was younger. The next day, Amelia and Karen try to tell everyone about the Tengu they saw, and note that it was a completely naked woman, which makes Ilyu embarrassed. The story of a Tengu appearing at the inn spreads across social media, so people come to interview the innkeeper, but we see a real Tengu watching them from afar. Meanwhile, Asashi and the others prepare to go to school, and Ilyu appears wearing a girl's uniform, telling them she's looking forward to spending time with them. At school, Yoshio is surprised that Ilyu is a girl, but Ming tells them they're getting late for class, and she fixes Asashi's tie, but it makes Yoshio jealous. He tells Asashi he isn't the only one who fantasizes about Ming, and notes that she's extremely popular among the boys. So Karen wonders why they're going after her when they have a young model in front of them, but they notice that Ming is also popular among the girls. At night, Ming ends up getting drunk, and Amelia wants to try alcohol as well, but Izumi stops her and tells Ming to control herself, but she hugs Izumi and tells her she loves her. Ilyu notes that Ming's chest is sticking out, so she tells Asashi to fix it, which makes him spit out his tea. Ming tries to jump on him since he refuses to help her, and Karen tries to hold her back, but Ming tells her she doesn't need to be jealous, and she hugs everyone and tells them she loves all of them. Asashi puts her to bed, but as he goes to his room, he finds a man named Colonel Sanders, who suddenly knocks him out. As he wakes up, he finds himself tied up in a strange position, and Sanders tells him they're using him as bait to lure out Meng. He hears an explosion, so he tells everyone to check it out, and Meng manages to find Asashi while everyone's distracted. She takes pictures of him before finally setting him free, and he's depressed because of the position he was in, but she gives him items and tells him it's time to go. They come across a guard who has already been knocked out, and Ming notes that he was already like that when she got there, so she thinks they got lucky. Another guard sees them, so Ming death checks him, and Asashi smashes his head to knock him out. She sees another guard rushing towards them, so she makes him fall to the ground using her whip, and Asashi hits his head once again. They come across an elevator that isn't working, so she notes that they need to go to the control room to fix it, but he wonders how she knows where it is. The door to the room is locked, but she tells him she has a plan, and they break the window to get in. She manages to bring the power back on, but Sanders arrives and calls Meng the Bloody Tiger, which confuses Asashi. Sanders rushes towards him, but Meng blocks his attack and sends him flying into the wall. He reveals that she used to be an agent feared by everyone in the underworld, since she destroyed countless organizations, and he reveals that he wants to get revenge since she wiped out his team. They charge at each other, and he manages to throw her away. He's disappointed since she isn't as good as she used to be, so to give her motivation, he decides to attack Asashi. She tries to stop him and punches his face, but he grabs her leg, and she tells Asashi to hit the switch. As he presses the button, Sanders is tied up by wires that she spread throughout the room, and she tells him he can't break them since they're made from a special alloy. They head to the elevator, and Meng notices that Asashi is bleeding, so she tears off a piece of her dress to patch him up. She apologizes for getting him involved, and reveals that when she was in that line of business, she believed she was doing the right thing, but she left when she realized she was destroying people's lives. She decided to become a teacher, and the time she spent with everyone in their house was the first time she felt love, but she's sad that it's all over. As the elevator opens, she tells him he shouldn't be worried, since she will keep him safe no matter what happens. They try to get out of the building, but a group of guards opens fire on them, so she starts taking them out. She grabs a gun and eliminates everyone standing in her way, and she tells Asashi where the emergency exit is, but he wants to stay with her. So she shoots the wall right beside him, and notes that if he stays with her, he will only get in her way. Ming continues to take out anyone who comes in her way, but she falls to her knees and starts to cry, and Sanders arrives to face her again. She's shocked to see that he has turned into a cyborg, and she tries to shoot him, but her bullets have no effect. He extends his arm and pins her to the wall, but before he can hurt her, Asashi hits his arm with a fire extinguisher. He rushes towards Sanders with an electric rod, so he knocks Asashi to the ground, but he refuses to let Sanders hurt her since she's a part of his family. As Sanders tries to grab him, he slips out of his clothes and throws lotion all over Sanders' body before electrocuting him with the rod. Ming's fist suddenly glows, and she blows Sanders away, but she wonders why Asashi came back. He notes that he can't return to the house without her, and he doesn't care what she did in the past, which makes her cry, so she hugs him and thanks him for everything. But the next day, everyone is shocked seeing Asashi sleeping on top of Meng while they're covered in lotion. As Asashi goes to get groceries, a robot scans his private area and tries to attack him, but a magical girl destroys it and flies away. The next day, Asashi tells Yoshio what happened, but he thinks Asashi is joking, and Karen suddenly interrupts them. She asks Asashi to sleep with her, and he can't believe what she's saying, but she hugs him and notes that he has been getting personal with the other girls. All the students suddenly notice that a huge robot has appeared in the sky, and a reporter notes that it might be from another planet, revealing that similar objects have appeared throughout the world. A small robot scans the private areas of all the men in their class, and it prepares to attack them, so Ming pushes Asashi out of the way, but Yoshio ends up getting hit. He tries to pull the device off, but it blows up and destroys his nuts. Meanwhile, Karen heads to the roof and transforms into a magical girl, but she's seen by Asashi, who realizes that she was the one he saw. A strange creature named Sod appears in front of him, and it mentions that they will explain everything to him, but it tells Karen to prepare to fight first. She tells Asashi to grab her chest, which makes him flustered, but Sod pushes him. As his hands make contact, she notes that she can feel power flowing through her body, and she goes to fight the robot. She fires a light beam towards it, but it has no effect, and she rushes back toward Asashi since she has used up all her power. He doesn't understand what's happening, so she reveals that Sod ran into her when she was doing an outdoor shoot, and it told her to form a pact to become a magical girl. She thought it would be fun, but she's always getting called for help in the middle of the night, and losing sleep has started causing problems for her skin, so Sod apologizes for everything. It tells Asashi it's from another planet called the Contracept Dimension, and notes that the robots are also from its planet, revealing that they're called ball takers. It reveals that they plan to plant a bomb on all the men on Earth, and when the number over the main unit hits 69, all of them will lose their ability to reproduce. It mentions that the only way to stop them is for Karen to build up TDL power, but he has no idea what that is, and they realize that the robots are causing havoc. Sod takes them to a vehicle, telling them to go inside and match with each other, since it's the only way to build up TDL power, but Asashi doesn't understand what Sod is telling them to do. So it explains that TDL power increases when a person's heart starts racing because of the one they love, but it whispers something in Karen's ear and disappears. As they get on the vehicle, Karen starts taking off her clothes, which makes Asashi nervous, so she explains that getting intimate is the best way to increase the TDL power. But he asks her how she gathered it before, so she notes that she peeks at him when he takes a bath, and also sniffs his clothes. He tells her they need another method, so he pins her to the wall and touches her face, but he notices that the TDL power isn't going up that much. He thinks she doesn't love him, since the meter hasn't gone up, so she wonders what love truly is. She knows that the world will end if they don't do something, so she takes off both of their clothes, but Izumi appears outside since she heard Asashi's voice. He tries calling out to her, but Karen covers his mouth to make sure they aren't discovered, and she takes off all of his clothes. She prepares to make her move, but he hits her head, telling her she needs to value herself more. Sod checks on them since it thinks they must be done, but it's shocked to see them arguing. Karen tells Asashi he's the only one special to her, but he tells her to save herself for the one she truly loves, or else she will regret it. Sod tells them to get down to business, which annoys Asashi, since Sod doesn't care if it makes Karen sad. The TDL meter starts going up, but they're attacked by the robots, so he creates a distraction to let Karen get away. She tells Sod that her heart hurts whenever she thinks about Asashi, but the power is still welling up inside her body, and as the meter reaches its maximum value, her body starts to glow. The robots catch up to Asashi, and they prepare to destroy what's precious to him, but Karen suddenly blows them up. Sod notes that she has turned into the legendary miraculous magical girl, which is only possible for the people who truly understand love. She uses her staff to defeat all the robots in her way, and she reaches the main unit, so she fires her light beam toward it, but it's able to protect itself. As their powers clash, Karen is about to be overwhelmed, but Asashi provides support, and she manages to defeat the robot. After that, the victims realize that their bodies are back to normal, and Karen thanks Asashi for his help. But she suddenly gets a vision like the other girls, which shocks her, and a feather lands on her head. So he tries to take it, but she slaps his hand and runs away, leaving him confused. In a flashback, we see Asashi walking around a beach with a girl named Ai, and as they talk about the stars, she apologizes for dragging him there every year. He explains that he doesn't mind, since her dad is always busy, but he's worried that their classmates might find out. She thinks he hates coming with her, but he assures her that it isn't true, which makes her laugh. She explains that she was just joking, and she wishes they could stay together forever, but Asashi has no idea what to say, and he tells her it's time to go back. In the present, Amelia tries to wake Asashi up by jumping on him, but he gets out of the way. She tells him to get ready, or else they'll leave without him, and he recalls that they're going to Yoshio's family's private beach. Yoshio tells them to be grateful, but they ignore him, and Asashi is surprised by how excited Ilyu is, so she explains that it's because she's never seen the sea. Karen and Amelia try to scare her by telling her there are monsters in the sea, but Asashi assures her they're lying. Yoshio tells them to listen to him and notes that their ride is about to arrive, but it suddenly runs him over. They arrive at the beach house, and they're surprised by how amazing it is, but Ming is sad that they had to leave Yoshio behind. They go into the sea, and Ilyu is worried that she might get swept away, but Asashi notes that he'll protect her if something happens. As the rest of them are enjoying the sea, Ming tells Asashi she feels old when he calls her teacher, so she wants him to call her by her name. The other girls hit them with a water gun, telling them they shouldn't flirt in front of them, and they continue to enjoy their time together. After that, Ilyu mentions how she had fun making memories she will never forget, and they all wish they could stay there forever, but all of them suddenly disappear, and he runs into Izumi while she's looking for them. He's surprised to see her since she wasn't with them, and he tries to tell her that everyone has gone missing, but she has no idea what he's talking about, and he forgets who he was looking for. She starts making dinner for them, and she tells him to set up the plates, but he takes out too many. He accidentally breaks one as he's putting them away, and she helps him clean it, but they end up touching hands, which makes them blush. He goes to throw away the broken pieces, and as he goes outside, he gets a call from Yoshio, but Izumi declines it. He notices that she's having a hard time starting a fire, so he helps her and tells her to handle the kitchen while he takes care of the fire. She isn't surprised that a boy is good at things like that, so he notes that he used to light fires at barbecue parties when he was a kid, but she becomes confused hearing this. He gets another call from Yoshio, but he doesn't notice it, and she breaks the phone and throws it in the trash. At night, she serves him dinner, and he notices that the clock is broken, but she tells him the time doesn't matter. He praises her cooking, and she notes that there's celery in the dish, so she wasn't sure he was going to like it since he hates celery, but he mentions that it was only when he was a kid. He doesn't remember ever telling her he doesn't like celery, but she quickly changes the topic and tells him to eat until he's full. After that, as they're sitting around the fire, he suddenly starts remembering everyone else, but she snaps him out of it and notes that they should go on a walk. She takes him to a cherry blossom tree, which makes him confused, since it isn't supposed to bloom during that season. She mentions that she loves him, but he asks her where everyone else is, since he now remembers them clearly. He wonders where they are, and he asks her who she is, but she tells him that none of that matters anymore. She wishes for him to stay with her forever, and she knocks him to the ground, telling him she'll give him anything he needs if he stays with her. She prepares to kiss him, but he suddenly names the other girls, and once again asks her where they are. He's surrounded by the cherry blossoms, and Ai suddenly appears in front of him, telling him she wishes they could be together forever, but she knows that it isn't possible, so she tells him to never come here again, and he tries to follow her, but everything starts glitching out. Asashi wakes up in his room, and he notices that he's already late for school, so he quickly gets ready, but he realizes that everyone else has already left. As he reaches his class, he tells another boy to get off his chair, but the boy tells him he's mistaken. Asashi wonders where Amelia and the others are, but the boy doesn't know who they are, which confuses Asashi, and he runs out of the classroom. He goes to the cherry tree where Izumi confessed to him, but he's shocked to see that it's just a normal tree, and he wonders what's happening. A girl named Yoshino starts inspecting his body, but he smacks her hand away since he doesn't know who she is. She shows him a video of Yoshio and takes him to her office in a company called Cavendish, telling him she will let him meet the people he's looking for. After reaching her office, she starts taking his vitals, and he threatens to leave if she doesn't tell him where everyone else is. She shows him an article, which mentions that they were looking for people to take part in an experiment, where they needed to live in a virtual world with girls. She also takes out an item, to make him remember that he was selected for that experiment, but he has no idea what she's trying to tell him. She pulls up a hologram of his house, and reveals that for the past few months, he's been living in a virtual world, and all the girls he stayed with were just AI. He starts to laugh, and he thinks she's joking since he could touch and smell them, but she notes that it was possible due to the interactive brainwave system. She tells him that even though he feels like he's stayed with them for months, it has only been a day in the real world, and she mentions that VR and AI have become an important part of their society. She explains that if AI suddenly disappeared, their lives would fall apart, but for it to move forward with humans, it needs to be able to have emotions. The first AI was designed to process data in the place of humans, and as technology progressed, the AI became more like humans. But it still didn't develop feelings, so the one they're currently developing, called Artificial Omniscient Intelligence, aims to break through that barrier. She mentions that for AI to develop the same kinds of emotions as humans, it needs to learn from interacting with people, which is why they created the project that Asashi took part in. She reveals that the experiment he participated in was about romantic feelings, and notes that researchers from all over the world competed to make the best AI with romantic appeal. The girls he stayed with are the results of the research, and she monitored him by acting as Yoshio, telling him the AI acted strangely when they first met him, since they didn't know what love is. But after spending time with him, they started to understand human emotion, and she notes that the experiment produced amazing results. But the day he went to the beach, her access was suddenly cut off, and he was forced back to reality. Asashi refuses to believe what she's saying, and she explains that she knows how he feels, but she tells him to accept the truth. A girl named Ibuka enters the room, and she's surprised to see Yoshino, since she isn't supposed to be there. The chief appears as well, and he reminds Yoshino that she needs to stay home until her official punishment is decided, but she annoys him even more, so he decides to fire her. Ibuka escorts them out of the building, and Yoshino notes that they thought Asashi was selected randomly for the experiment, but she thinks the AI chose him on purpose. After that, Yoshino tells Asashi that the best way to make AI more like humans is by copying a human mind, but it needed a huge amount of data, so it was considered impossible to do with current technology. We learned that 3 years ago, a researcher named Kotaro Izawa made an announcement disproving that assumption just before his death. He was able to create this supposedly impossible whole brain simulation system all on his own, and he used his mind uploading technology to make an AI with artificial consciousness. The AI evolved quickly and spread all over the world, and most of the artificial intelligence in the world is based on it, including Izumi and the other girls. Kotaro named the artificial intelligence I, and Yoshino notes that Kotaro copied the brain data of his daughter to use in the AI, since she suddenly got sick and passed away. Yoshino reveals that his daughter's name was also I, but we learn that she was Asashi's childhood friend, and he remembers the time he spent with her when they were kids. He goes to her grave and starts crying, while Yoshino thinks about how she couldn't ask him what happened at the beach, since she felt sorry for him after seeing the look on his face. But the AI in the city suddenly starts glitching, and Izumi and I appear on all the screens for a moment. The next day, as Asashi wakes up, his mother offers to make breakfast for him, but he just eats a banana and goes back to his room. Meanwhile, the chief is worried since their company's satellite has been taken over by AI, and Ibuka thinks they should ask Yoshino for help, but he doesn't even want to hear her name. Ibuka tries to tell him about the signals they've been receiving, but he thinks they're useless, and notes that instead of wasting time on that, she should help them fix the problem. She calls Yoshino and tells her how the chief is losing his mind, so Yoshino asks her about the signals, and she reveals that they're a message. Yoshino goes to Asashi's room, and she tells him they have a problem. She asks him to go back to the virtual world, but he refuses her request and starts to cry, since he has already accepted that he wouldn't see I again. She notes that all the girls he lived with were based on I, and since Izumi was created first, she was the one who was most like her. Yoshino thinks that by spending time with him, the consciousness buried inside Izumi was awakened, and she notes that it has made her go berserk. She thinks last night's disruption was caused by Izumi as well, which surprises him, and she tells him that a few years ago, the Cavendish company developed the first ever quantum computer called Muse. It was filled with AI data and launched into space on a satellite, but Izumi has taken control of it and interfered with networks all over the world. Yoshino reveals that the issue has already been resolved, but the networks are still unstable, and the Muse is refusing all outside connections. She thinks Asashi is the only one who can access it, since they've been getting a message from the satellite, which mentions that it wants to meet him. Asashi is about to make his decision, but Lovren suddenly goes wild and starts projecting a holographic live feed of Amelia and the others. But Asashi is confused since they're in an extremely low quality, so Amelia fixes them, and they're glad to meet him again. They're surprised to see that Yoshino is there as well, but she's just happy that all of them are safe, and they reveal that before Izumi logged them out, Amelia sensed an irregularity. So they hid in the only place where the disruption couldn't reach them, but Karen mentions that she was the one who took them there, and they start arguing with each other. Ilyu asks Asashi to save Izumi, and Ming mentions that Izumi is suffering, since she doesn't know how to deal with all the new emotions she's feeling. Karen calls Izumi an idiot, because instead of bottling up her feelings, she should have talked to them about it, but Ilyu notes that they're also at fault, since they couldn't see that she was hurting. Yoshino realizes that Izumi might have started going berserk, even before her consciousness merged with I, and she wonders what triggered it. But they tell her to stop joking around, since if they can figure it out, there's no way a human wouldn't understand it. Ilyu notes that Asashi is the only one who can save Izumi, and she notes that she wants to see him again, while the rest of the girls also feel the same way. Yoshino gets a call from Ibuka, who tells her that the company has decided to run the program, so they won't be able to contact each other. Lovren starts going wild again, and before the live feed is cut off, they tell Asashi to come back. Everything starts malfunctioning, and Yoshino tells Asashi they need to meet Izumi, since the company has decided to use the backdoor on Muse to erase all the data on the satellite. She decides to leave without him after seeing the look on his face, and she notes that she refuses to give up, since there's still a chance to save everything. Asashi starts thinking about everyone, and he remembers the time he asked Ai if she would meet her deceased mother if she had the chance. So she explains that she wants to, but she knows that if she saw her once, she would like to see her again. But she notes that if she ever met her, she would thank her for giving birth to her. Asashi decides to go with Yoshino, so she tells him to get on her bike, but she explains that they can't go to her office since she was fired. So they need to go to the only other place, which has enough computing power to make the equipment work, and she drives past the traffic. They go to the beach house he went to with the girls, and she takes him to Kotaro's lab, telling him he shut himself there after he lost Ai. He asks Yoshino if she knew about him and Ai before everything that happened, but she reveals that she only investigated it after the problem occurred. He wonders why she experimented, even though she was shut down by her boss, but she suddenly remembers Izumi telling her she wants to fall in love, and Yoshino realizes what caused her to go on a rampage. Before she sends him to the virtual world, she confirms that he isn't doing it just to escape from reality, and she warns him that Izumi will try to trap him there. She mentions that if the erasure program is activated, it will become dangerous for him as well, but he still plans to go through with it. He asks her if he'll forget everything just like the first time, but she assures him that it won't happen, and as she sends him in, she tells him to save everyone. As Asashi wakes up, he sees Lovren in front of him, but it turns out to be Yoshino, who's snuck in with him to monitor everything. They come across the protection wall, and he wonders how they will get in, but a butterfly suddenly appears in front of him. So he follows it, and they find a weak spot in the wall, which they use to enter the virtual world. But Yoshino isn't comfortable in Lovren's form, so she changes into Yoshio. A cleaning robot tries to make them log out, and Yoshino tells him to run away, since there's no telling if they will be able to log in again. They're also chased by the dogs that always bothered Ilyu, so they quickly jump into a pool. They're teleported to Amelia and the others, who are embarrassed to see them naked. They don't understand why Yoshio is with them, so she explains that she's Yoshino, and reveals that she has always been monitoring them through various forms. An egg suddenly comes out of Yoshio's body, and San appears from it, as Yoshino notes that it was also one of her forms. Ming thanks Asashi for coming there, but the others become jealous, so they grab him as well. Yoshino reminds them that they don't have much time, telling them about the situation, and they already know that Ai's consciousness has woken up inside Izumi. Amelia notes that Izumi wanted to meet Asashi, but I didn't, which is what led to the current chain of events, so he needs to see them to resolve the situation. Yoshino notes that they're facing two obstacles, with the first one being the logout program that can purge their avatars, and the second one being the erasure program. We learn that the Cavendish company is using it to delete all the data, so it's all over if it catches them, but Asashi assures them that he won't let anything happen to them. Ming wonders what will happen if Asashi is caught by the program, so Yoshino reveals that his brain will be fried, which terrifies him. Amelia shows everyone where Izumi is, and notes that even though she has protection around her, there's a secret path they can use to get past it. Karen thinks it will be much easier than she thought, but Ming tells her to never let her guard down, since there's no telling what problems they might end up facing. As they head out, they enter a strange room, and Asashi mentions that he went there with Meng, which makes everyone wonder what they were doing. He notes that he was just tied up and covered in lotion, but it makes them imagine even worse things. As they move forward, they run into a group of guards, and Yoshino thinks they can't move, but they suddenly come to life, so the girls prepare to fight. Ming kicks them away, while Karen uses her staff to defeat them with her light beam, but Asashi notices that one of the guards is about to blow up near Yoshino, so he tries to save her, but they both get caught in the explosion, and it sends them flying into another building. Asashi is confused by what's happening, so she notes that the environment is all messed up, and before they go to find the others, he asks her if they were programmed to fall for him. She reveals that they were initially meant to have feelings for Asashi, but after spending time with him, their feelings started to change, which wasn't observed in any of the AI up to that point. Ming overhears their conversation, and as she enters the room, they hear Ilyu screaming. So they rush to the others, but they notice that they have run into the erasure program, which powers up the guards. The guards capture Yoshino and remove her from the virtual world, and one of them is about to catch Karen, but Asashi hits him with his electric rod. Ming tells him to stay back since he's a human, but he notes that it doesn't matter, since he can't just watch them fight. Everyone takes down the guards, and as they run away, they find a door that will lead them closer to Izumi. But before they can get to it, Sanders suddenly appears in front of them, and he tells them to give up. But Ming easily overpowers him and kicks him away, which amazes everyone, and they think they should stop making fun of her. Asashi tries to pull the lever, but he isn't strong enough to do it, so Ming helps him out, and they're able to open the door. The erasure program and the guards are about to catch up to them, so they quickly move ahead, but they notice there's no control panel on that side, which means they can't close the door. Ming notes that before she met Asashi, she didn't know what love was, but when he protected her, it filled her heart with a warm feeling, and she realized it's what love is. She starts to cry, saying she knows that feeling isn't artificial, and it didn't come from Ai's memories, which means it's her own emotions. She mentions that he's always saving her, so it's her turn to protect him, and she tells him not to worry about her, since she will defeat everyone and catch up to them. As he tries to argue with her, she kisses him and tells him to keep moving forward. She pushes him through the door, which makes him remember the time Ai was being bullied, so he tried to save her, and he ended up getting beaten, but she was happy that he protected her. Ming starts fighting everyone on her own, and she's glad she met Asashi, because he made her understand what love is. She manages to defeat them, but the ribbon Asashi grabbed from her head disappears, which means her avatar was deleted. Meanwhile, Yoshino can't log back into the virtual world, and Ibuka comes to help her, but she's amazed after seeing the lab. Yoshino mentions that the erasure program is preventing her from logging in, and she notices that it has already taken care of Meng, but she notes that there's still something they can try. In the virtual world, Karen calls Meng an idiot for trying to show off, but she can't hold back her true feelings and starts to cry. Asashi tells them they need to keep moving forward, which makes them wonder why he isn't bothered by what just happened. But he starts crying as well, and notes that it's what Meng told him to do. They get to the school, where a robot tries to attack them, so Karen defeats it with her light beam, but they notice that Asashi is injured. Ilyu treats his wounds, and they tell him to be careful, since his injuries will affect his real body, while they're all just AI. But he knows they also feel pain, so he doesn't want them to get hurt. While Amelia figures out where to go next, they ask him how the school is in real life, but he reveals that he hasn't been there for months, since he lost the motivation to do anything after I passed away. He notes that he could do things in the virtual world that he couldn't in his real life, and he tells them how much fun he had with them, so he promises to make sure they survive. As they move forward, they reach a dead end, but Asashi sees the same butterflies that helped him enter the virtual world, so Ilyu thinks that Izumi might be calling for him. They follow the butterflies, and they see the next door that they need to go through, but they realize that countless robots are standing in their way. Karen offers to act as a bait to distract them, and Ilyu decides to help her. Amelia also wants to help them, but they note that she needs to guide Asashi, and they promise to catch up after defeating the robots. Asashi and Amelia go through the door, and Ilyu breaks the control panel to make sure no one can reach them, and she rushes towards the robots with Karen. Asashi tells Amelia they should leave a trail for the others, so Amelia mentions that she'll leave a marker, and they enter a secret elevator. She tells him that the moment she felt love for the first time was when he told her the things she hated herself for were actually her strength. It made her remember the time I found an abandoned puppy, so she took it to her house, but her father wouldn't let her keep it, since he knew that taking care of an animal isn't easy. She assured him she wouldn't cry when they found its owner, but when it was finally time to say goodbye, she couldn't control her tears. Amelia gives Asashi the word book he gave her, and notes that she's glad she met him, since he taught her a lot of things. She notes that when she looks back at the situations they faced together, she sees how happy she was, and she mentions that everyone else feels the same way. The butterflies show him the last secret passage he needs to go through to find Izumi, but he notices the robots trying to break in, and Amelia apologizes since she won't be there with him at the end. He refuses to leave the girls behind, so Amelia plays a message that Karen and Ilyu left for him during their last moments. Karen notes that she doesn't care what happens to the world as long as he's smiling, and she reminds him that he told her to value herself, so she wishes the same thing for him. She wants him to treasure every moment he spends in the real world, telling him to smile just like he did when he was with them, and she thanks him for giving her a life full of love. She flies away with Ilyu, but she stops as her wings suddenly fall off, and she uses all of her remaining power to attack the robots with a huge light beam, but she gets swarmed by them. Ilyu mentions that the only reason she was able to live as her true self was because he gave her the strength to do it, and she tells him to live his life freely as well. She gets overwhelmed by the robots, and Asashi starts to cry, but Amelia tells him to lift his head up, and notes that all of them wish for him to return to his world and be happy. She kisses him and tells him he shouldn't be afraid to keep moving forward, and the robots break through, so she sends him through the secret passage, but he screams as the robots surround her. Asashi cries as her word book disappears, but he manages to find Izumi, who apologizes to him for everything. He's glad that she's okay, and he mentions that he needs to see Ai, so she puts his face in her chest and shows him Ai's memories. We go back to when Asashi was depressed, since he's about to graduate from middle school, but Ai doesn't mind since they'll still be together. She takes him with her to go shopping, and she finds a necklace she likes, but she can't buy it since she already used up her allowance, so he buys it for her. She tells him to put it on her, and she asks him if it suits her, so he notes that she looks cute, but she suddenly starts to feel dizzy. At night, as Kotaro comes home, she goes to make dinner for him, but she suddenly passes out. He takes her to the doctor, who reveals that she has brain cancer, and it can't be treated since it has become too advanced. Kotaro starts losing his mind, but she calms him down, and notes that even though the doctor told them she doesn't have much time to live, she still won't give up. Asashi comes to visit her in the hospital, and he brings her all types of bananas, since she needs to eat a lot to get better. She assures him she's fine, and notes that the doctor told her she's just tired, which relieves him. She asks him if he'll go to see the cherry blossoms once spring comes, so he mentions that they always do that anyway, but she makes him promise it. She gives him chocolates as a gift, and wishes they could go to high school together, so he promises that he'll work hard to make her wish come true. As it starts to snow, he asks her if they should go inside, but she wants to stay there, so he puts his scarf around her to keep her warm. Ai starts to feel worse, and she gets a call from Asashi, who tells her he's coming to the hospital, but she starts to cry after seeing how terrible she looks. She puts on makeup to trick him into thinking she's okay, and tells him he doesn't need to keep coming back to see her, since she knows that his exams are about to start. She notes that she doesn't want to distract him, and once again assures him that she's fine, but she starts crying after he leaves. After that, Ai's condition continues to worsen, and she sees a video of her with Asashi when they went to see the cherry tree. She can't hold herself back from seeing him anymore, so she messages him and notes that they should go to the cherry blossoms together. Asashi cries after seeing her memories, but Izumi tells him Ai is on the other side of the door, and she apologizes for dragging him into such a mess. But he pats her head, and notes that it's thanks to them that he knows what he needs to do. She tells him he changed her world, because he made her see what love truly is, and he notes that he enjoyed every moment he spent with them. Asashi goes through the door and finds Ai, and he immediately hugs her, but she tells him to forget about her, since it's what he needs to do to move forward. He mentions all the things they did together, and notes that he can never forget about her, since they have always been together, so he sees her with him whenever he thinks about his past. He falls to his knees, and notes that he came to the virtual world to try and forget her, but when he returned to the real world, he realized that nothing had changed. He reveals that he was afraid when she got sick, since he knew he was about to lose her, so he ran away, but he thinks they should have been together for all the time she had left. He mentions that Amelia and the others taught him to never look away, and he tells her that he always loved her, so there's no way he can forget about her. He promises to move forward while keeping her memories with him, which makes her cry, and she mentions that there were a lot of things she wanted to do with him, but she knew they would never happen, which is why she got scared of being around him, and she tells him she wanted to be with him until the end, since she also loves him. As they kiss, everything around them returns to normal, and her body starts to glow, but he tells her they will stay together till the end. She gives him the necklace he bought for her, and as she disappears, she tells him she's glad that her dream finally came true. Asashi returns to the real world, where Ibuka points out the Muse satellite crashing to the ground, but Yoshino tells him to put his pants on, which makes him embarrassed. After that, Asashi decides to go to college, and his friends ask him to celebrate with them, but he tells them he already has other plans. He goes to visit Ai's grave, and we see a new AI update called Izumi, which is being launched thanks to Yoshino, who has become the chief of Cavendish. As Asashi returns home, he finds 4 packages on his doorstep, and he's shocked as Amelia and the others jump out of it. They all hug him, and he doesn't understand how it's possible, so they explain that Ai and Yoshino made their bodies for them. Ibuka asks Yoshino if she's okay with only sending 4 packages to Asashi, so she notes that it's fine, since Izumi was determined to walk there on her own. Ibuka thinks love is a strange thing, because even the new high-performance technology couldn't develop the way the girls did. So Yoshino mentions that love isn't all about computing power, but Ibuka laughs at her, and reminds her that she doesn't have any experience of her own. The girls swarm Asashi, who notes that there isn't enough space for all of them, but they think they will get used to it.